Hello, I'm Steve Weber, the host of Beatles Rewind. As always, I'm joined by my co-host and fellow Beatle maniac, my confidante, Cassandra. Good morning, Cass.
Good morning. Oh, it feels like a great day to connect some musical dots, especially these ones. Pretty unexpected.
So let's get into that connection between that seminal British band, the Beatles, and the Canadian power trio.
Okay. Kick us off, Steve.
Okay, right, so let's dive in.
Yeah.
You know, if you just look at them on the surface, comparing the Beatles and Rush, well, it seems kind of wild, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You've got the Fab Four from Liverpool, the Suits, the 3-minute pop gems, this huge cultural wave built on, well, charm and accessibility.
Yeah, exactly. And then flip side, you have Rush, Canadian prog rockers. We're talking 20-minute epics, complex lyrics about like sci-fi futures, Ayn Rand.
Right. Different countries, different genres, decades apart in terms of rock's evolution. It just feels different.
It really does. One group's in matching suits, the other's maybe got a cape, metaphorically speaking. But what we want to do today is show you that under all that surface difference, there's actually this like deep connection, a shared way of thinking about making music.
It's more than just, oh, they influenced them. It's a real shared approach. And maybe the most surprising place to start, the real key, is actually in the rhythm section, the bass.
Ah, the bass players.
Yeah.
McCartney and Geddy Lee.
Exactly. This is where it gets fascinating because they both have this reluctant bassist story. It's almost spooky how similar it is.
Right. Paul McCartney, he was a guitarist first, yeah.
Yeah.
Songwriter. Only switched to bass because Stu Sutcliffe left back in '61. He didn't exactly choose it.
And then zoom over to Canada, 1968. Rush's first bassist leaves. Geddy Lee steps up. He was mainly a guitarist too. Had to take over bass and lead vocals.
So, okay, why is that such a big deal? They were forced into it.
Well, because neither of them thought like a traditional bassist, They weren't just thinking thump thump keep the rhythm. They were guitarists, melodically minded.
So they brought that guitar thinking to the bass.
Precisely. Think about other bassists then. James Jamerson at Motown, incredible, complex grooves, sure, but often focused on the root notes, anchoring things. Paul just didn't do that.
He treated it like another melody line.
Yes, like a counterpoint, a hook you could or think about Come Together, or There's Beautiful Lines in Something, or even Dear Prudence. You pull that bass out, it's a tune on its own.
Right, it stands alone. He wasn't just filling the bottom end.
And Geddy Lee, well, he took that idea and just, cranked it. Think about Rush stuff, YYZ, that crazy run, or the start of Tom Sawyer.
Yeah, iconic.
The bass is practically a lead instrument there, but it's also holding down these super complex prog rhythms. That takes a certain kind of thinking, a melodic approach forced onto the bass.
Okay, so that shared mindset, bass is a voice, that leads us somewhere else,
Yeah.
right? A specific technique.
It does. It leads us to the pick, Paul's pick.
The plectrum.
Yeah. Back then, early 60s, most bassists, especially coming from blues or jazz, they used their fingers. They got that warm, round sound.
The classic stomp.
But Paul, he deliberately chose to use a pick. And that changes the sound.
How so? What did it do?
It gave him clarity, attack, articulation. His bass lines cut through everything else the Beatles were doing, especially as their arrangements got more and more complex.
Ah, so when they started layering things, like on Scat Pepper.
Exactly. You've got orchestras, weird sounds, everything. That bass needed to be sharp, clear, defined. Otherwise, it'd just get lost in the mix.
Makes sense. A sound that had to punch through, and Lee picked up on that.
Totally. Geddy Lee's sound is all about that pick-driven clarity, too. Rush's music is so dense, so aggressive sometimes. You've got Pert's drumming, licensed guitar textures.
There's a lot going on.
A lot. And the bass has to do both rhythm and melody, cutting through all of it. That pick sound was essential for their progressive, tight sounds, like physical proof that Lee understood Paul's idea. Make every note count. Make it heard.
Okay, so we've got the bass connection, reluctant players, melodic approach, the pick. But where did they do all this? That brings us to the studio, right?
Oh, yeah. The studio as an instrument, that's maybe the biggest thing the Beatles gave everyone, including Rush. Working with George Martin at Abbey Road, they basically rewrote the rules.
Before them, the studio was mostly just for capturing a live sound, wasn't it?
Pretty much. But albums like Revolver, Street Pepper,
Yeah.
suddenly the studio was a laboratory. It wasn't just recording, it was creating sounds that couldn't exist live.
Like automatic double tracking, right? And tape loops backwards. all that experimental stuff.
Splicing tape, using the console itself creatively, they showed everyone that the recording process itself was part of the art.
And Rush saw that and thought, okay, we can do that too.
They didn't just see it, they absorbed it. They took those Beatles innovations, that permission to experiment, and applied it full force to, well, hard rock and prog.
How did that translate, though? How did Abbey Road ideas end up in Rush's sound?
Well, think about their albums from, say, Hemispheres onwards. Permanent Waves. The sheer sound of those records. Rush was only 3 guys.
But they sounded huge.
Exactly. They used multi-tracking like crazy. Layering Getty synths, Alex's guitars, creating these massive textures, Neil's incredibly detailed percussion. It was all built in the studio, layer by layer, things they couldn't possibly play live all at once back then.
So they used the studio to get around being just a trio.
Totally. The studio became the unofficial 4th member, letting them build these complex sonic worlds. It was the Beatle pioneered techniques enabling Rush's specific ambition.
And that ambition, it wasn't just sonic, was it? It extended to the whole album concept.
Right, the concept album. Now, the Beatles didn't invent it, but Secteet Pepper, that made it massive. Commercially huge, the idea of an album as one single unified piece of art.
And Rush took that concept idea and went further.
Oh, much further. They didn't just have a theme, they built entire narrative worlds. 2112 Side 1 is basically a rock opera novella set in a dystopia.
Yeah, 20 minutes long. And wasn't that the one with the Ayn Rand connection?
That's the one. Crediting Ayn Rand in the liner notes for a hard rock album, that was radical. Injecting philosophy, objectivism into mainstream rock, that was breaking a different kind of rule.
More than just concept, it was intellectual ambition, which actually the Beatles had too, later on.
Definitely. They moved way past She Loves You, yeah, yeah, yeah. Think about the lyrics on, like, A Day in the Life, or I Am the Walrus, inspired by literature, avant-garde stuff, really complex, sometimes surreal writing.
So both bands pushed the lyrical boundaries of rock. Rush just maybe pushed them into, like, science fiction and philosophy more overtly.
Yeah, they demanded a different kind of engagement from the listener. You had to think, not just tap your foot. They were selling complexity when the industry often wanted simplicity.
Which ties into that shared trait. They were both rule breakers in their own ways.
Absolutely. The Beatles did things nobody thought you could do in pop. Putting a string quartet on yesterday, a 7-minute single like Hey Jude, being a massive hit. Using orchestral sounds everywhere. Those were huge disruptions.
They changed what pop music was.
Yeah.
And Rush.
Rush broke the rules of what a hard rock band could be. Building a career on long instrumentals, odd time signatures, lyrics about philosophy getting radio play. They proved virtuosity and complexity could sell.
So different rules, different eras, but the same spirit of just doing it their way.
Exactly. And bringing it back to the band format? Being a trio forced Rush's hand in some ways, didn't it?
You mean they had to be inventive?
Yeah. Think about McCartney after the Beatles. With Wings, he knew how to arrange for smaller groups, make them sound full. Rush lived that challenge, 3 guys trying to create the sound of 5 or 6.
That's where the tech came in again, right? Like Geddy playing keyboards with his feet.
The bass pedals. Yes, that's a perfect example. Playing bass with his hands, synth melodies with his feet simultaneously. That's using technology to overcome the trio limitation, applying that Beatles studio mindset to a live problem. Ingenious, really.
It all connects back. And there's maybe one more angle, the outsider thing.
Yeah, that's interesting too. The Beatles were from Liverpool, not London. They came in and shook up the established scene. They had that outsider's edge.
And Rush from Canada. Not the epicenters of rock like the US or the UK.
Right. And maybe that distance gave both bands space to develop something unique, something less influenced by the immediate trends of London or LA. They could be more themselves.
So when you boil it all down, okay, they sound different. Pop hooks versus prog epics. But the underlying blueprint, it's there, isn't it?
It really is. That core DNA. The studio is an instrument. Rock music can be ambitious, intellectually and sonically. And the melodic bass player, absolutely key.
Rush's technical wizardry wasn't out of nowhere. It was kind of a logical next step from where the Beatles left off with their most complex studio work.
You could almost say Rush inherited the ambition from the Beatles, the drive to keep experimenting, keep pushing the boundaries of what the music could be.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Whenever you feel like knowing more about the Beatles, visit us at BeatlesRewind.com. Every day, we do something new there. Book reviews, song reviews, trivia, all things Beatles, every day, 8 days a week. You can find us on the website, BeatlesRewind.com. You can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Podcasts, practically anywhere. The Beatles, all day, every day. Cass, we'll do it again tomorrow. Right.
Sounds good. Catch you next time.
Until next time, when you listen, when you rock.
Your mind conducts its own symphony, or its own overture.